Hopefully you can hear me, Ryan. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
I can now, yes.
All right. I wonder why my microphone volume's so low. But anyway,
Because you're talking to the top of it. It's got to be facing you.
how about that?
That's better.
Yeah, I had the volume all the way down. I was probably rotating the knob the wrong way. That's probably my bad. Yeah, we were having a load of technical difficulties to start this show. So yeah, we're here finally. Better late than never, which is where we've been the last 2 weeks. We've kind of taken a hiatus from talking sports. However, it feels good to be back. Actually, feels great to be back. I definitely need this indeed. Today, we're going to cover a little bit of hockey. We're going to talk Claude Giroux a little bit, what his future looks like in Philadelphia. We're going to talk a little bit about baseball because there's not a lot to talk about baseball. And then we are going to go into quarterbacks. We're going to talk about which teams need them, who we think will end up there. And then we're going to talk about our top 12 dynasty fantasy quarterbacks because, as much as we like real sports, we like fake ones too.
That's right.
What does Claude Giroux's outlook look like in Philadelphia? Has he played, one of his last few games here in Philadelphia?
I believe he has. Reports came out 2 weeks ago, right before Ryan and I took a hiatus, that Giroux has agreed to a trade to 4 playoff contending teams and only 4 playoff contending teams. And they have a lot of young talent on those teams, so I think the Flyers could get something in return. I know his contract is up at the end of the season. But really, it's just sad the way that this season has gone and how the city has pretty much shut down on the Flyers in general, not just Claude Giroux. The season has just been a complete bust. And Giroux deserves a chance to go get a cup. So I do believe that Giroux has played one of his last games in Philadelphia. One of the likely landing spots, if not the most likely landing spot I see for him, is probably Colorado. The Avalanche are really front runners in my book to go get Giroux, and he's still got a lot to offer. He leads the team in goals. He leads the team in points. He's still playing at a really high level, and if I'm Colorado and I'm looking at the lowly Flyers right now, I'm really excited for the fact that Claude Giroux is on the trading block.
Yeah, no, I agree with the destination for Claude Giroux. I think as unfortunate as it is, he's played. His time in Philadelphia is coming to an end, whether it be just this season or in his career. I think how the Flyers start the offseason will have a lot to do with whether he returns next year or not. But one day he will return, whether it be, after his playing career to watch his number go hang in the rafters next to the likes of Bill Barber and Bobby Clark, or whether he actually plays another game in orange and black sweater. I do think Colorado is probably the most likely. They have the most firepower, and Claude Giroux, playing at a very high level this year, a standout amongst the Flyers, who have been porous to say the least, both offensively and defensively. Being next to guys like Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, Alex Burakovsky, Nazem Kadri, he just fits right in. He's going to be a top six scorer. He's going to provide a lot of depth on the power play, where he's done most of his damage for years. In the 2010s decade, he led the entire NHL in power play points. So he's still very dangerous. He's still got it, whatever it may be, and he brings an aspect of leadership to a very young group, to include Cale Makar. They haven't made the deep playoff run that a lot of people have expected. I think a move like acquiring Claude Giroux would definitely help this team to push being a cup contender, like a serious cup contender. Nobody's going to say no to a guy who has spent over a minute a game on the penalty kill nonetheless too. So he provides points, he provides leadership, he provides, a bit of stability on the penalty kill as well. So Claude Giroux can do a little bit of everything, and a team like Colorado is definitely not going to say no to that. And they have some young pieces in the farm system that they could give up as well. So I guess all that remains to be discussed is salary. The other teams being mentioned, I know Toronto was mentioned. I know Minnesota was another destination that he wanted to go to, but neither one of those teams, stand out as much of cup contenders as Colorado does. Maybe Toronto, but we all know Toronto and getting out of the first round of the playoffs have a really tough relationship over, the last 20 years or so. So I think Colorado is probably the most likely, and that's probably where they'll get the most return.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. The return is huge for the Flyers, but from an NHL standpoint, if Claude Giroux does go to the Avalanche, I think you really need to start circling that game on your schedule if you're the rest of the NHL. Some other NHL news: Wayne Simmonds. First of all, the Flyers won 20 minutes ago, so good for them. Their first win in 2 weeks. It's really sad.
They had the Farabee, Brassard, Atkinson line back out there, and I think they accumulated 3 of their 4 goals. So
they did, yes.
Injuries just killed this team this year, from the jump. And you hate to use that as an excuse, but when you go out and acquire a guy like Ryan Ellis, who's expected to finally take some of the load off Ivan Provorov after, the last few years of not really having a 1A defenseman with him, and he gets hurt, 4 games into the year and doesn't play again. You get, Brassard, who's playing at a high level, hurt 10 games into the year. Joel Farabee, who's missed a lot of the year already. The injuries, just Couturier out, Hayes out. It's just one after another after another. It gets so hard to sustain any chemistry, especially with a team that made so many acquisitions in the offseason and was probably going to use the early part of the season to get gelled together anyway. It just became really tough. And, like I said, you hate to use that as an excuse, but it had something to do with it, and ultimately it's not something that should be ignored.
Yeah, it shouldn't be ignored. However, every team deals with injuries, not on the level that the Flyers have dealt with them, but every team deals with injuries, and that's why you play the games. You don't just look at the paperwork or the rosters at the beginning of the season and say, okay, these teams look best on paper. These are the ones going to the playoffs. That's why you play the games. And I mean, that's just the nature of the beast, right?
Actually, speaking of injuries, that's another thing that the Avalanche get. I think in his 12-year career, Claude Giroux missed 5 games.
Yeah, serious Iron Man out there. Wayne Simmons, former Philadelphia Flyer, plays his 1,000th career game tonight for Toronto. It's just some more NHL news.
Yeah,
more NHL news.
I mean, most people, that's whatever to them. I was surprisingly, I'm not going to say I wasn't a fan of Wayne Simmons, but there are a lot of homers talking about, oh, we need Wayne Simmons back. We need Wayne Simmons back. No, we don't. No, we do not need a 36-year-old forward who probably has 10 points in 40 games and has a -10. How does that benefit this team in any way? We don't need Wayne Simmons back. We let him go at the right time. It was good to have him here when he was here, but we can't keep hanging on to old players for too long. So,
and I agree with you there. It's not beneficial to bring a player like Wayne Simmons back at this point in time. So why bring Wayne Simmons back at this point?
And he was never really fantastic either. He was another one of those dudes that was essentially made by Claude Giroux, a 30 goal scorer, power play force, because he played with 28 for quite some time. So ultimately,
he was a good addition to that line too, because he wasn't scared to throw the gloves.
He had a certain grit, certain toughness to him, but at the same time, he's a third liner on most teams.
Correct.
Maybe a second liner, but he was a 30 goal scorer because he played with Giroux.
I'm with you.
Not it.
The MLB lockout still stands.
Embarrassing. I mean, we saw this coming. They're not close. They're not going to be close. But God, this is terrible.
And I said this a couple weeks ago on one of our last shows prior to us taking a 2-week vacation here. Is the only people that are really getting hurt by this? I understand that the owners association wants to make as much money as possible and not hemorrhage as much money as possible, and I understand that the players want to get paid. I totally understand what's going on. However, from a fan standpoint, the only people that are getting screwed in this are the fans. We're expecting pitchers and catchers to report in the middle of last week. You and I have been dying for all offseason to talk baseball. We discussed going to spring training games, and now all of a sudden everything is ruined. The people who are getting screwed the most are 100% the fans. I'm sorry that they couldn't come to an agreement. They're supposedly closer, and they're hoping to start by April 16th. I don't see it happening. We're probably missing half the season if we're lucky. And then you got it's a travesty that we are going to have 2 shortened seasons in a guy named Mike Trout's career. In the prime of his career, he very easily could have been the best baseball player in history, and now you've got 2 shortened seasons, one with COVID, totally understandable, not able to control obviously a virus going nuts across the country, whatever. But for the Owners Association just blatantly making a decision that they don't want to at least come halfway and meet the Players Association, and the other way around, Players Association not choosing to come halfway to meet the owners. It's absolutely ridiculous that baseball had finally gotten fun to watch again, and now you're going to lose a lot of fans because you're greedy for that almighty dollar on both sides. And again, I digress, but the fans are the only people who are getting screwed by this.
So I disagree with that part. I agree with most of your rant, but I disagree with that part. If you think about it from the aspect of the Owners Association and the Players Association. Players aren't getting paid while the season's locked out, and neither are the owners. So the players are losing, a couple $1 million, and the owners are losing a couple $1 billion. Everybody's really getting screwed, and I think it revolves around one person. I think Rob Manfred. I used to hate Bud Selig, just because the way that he handled the steroid era, his axe to grind that he has with Pete Rose. I used to hate Bud Selig, but man, this never would have happened under his watch. It would have never unfolded like this. I don't think that Bud Selig should be in the MLB Hall of Fame, but I think he's a better commissioner than Rob Manfred, who, even with the slight rule changes and all kinds of other things, is just absolutely destroying baseball. You say baseball was getting fun to watch again. I kind of disagree. The runner on second base to start extra innings, just the small rule changes and the way that the game is developed under his guidance and leadership is just it's not fun to watch. It doesn't remind me actually at all of the baseball that I grew up playing and watching. So to me, it's gotten less fun. However, it's still my favorite sport. I'm still going to love baseball forever. The way that baseball is going right now is very concerning. Quite frankly, I think we're going to need to remove testing for steroids kind of permanently from this collective bargaining agreement, because we need some Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire type magic here to save baseball again. Because it's just
that's when it was the most exciting. That season, you and I discussed this on a show prior. That season with McGwire and Sosa revived baseball.
Well, and that's kind of what they need right now, because Rob Manfred, the Owners Association and the Players Association. Now, I think that the owners are the biggest problem in baseball. However, I'm not going to absolve the players from all the parts of this. It takes two to tango, in this case three with Rob Manfred. However, the fact that all sides are denying, a third-party judge to determine what the CBA should be, the fact that they're not even talking about putting a Band-Aid over this bullet hole just so they can play baseball is they're not heading in the right direction. And it's not a good look for baseball at all. And it's very concerning from a fan standpoint, because I want the games to come back. I don't see April 16th. And when we first talked about it in December, when the lockout first happened, I said mid-May would be the start of the season. That's not looking very realistic at this point either. So I don't know. It's looking like a lost cause. This is going to be a very short season in my eyes. I think come April, they'll probably be like, okay, we need to do something and patch up like a 1-year agreement.
Which is people who make that much money. It's again, I go back and I say, I understand where the owners are coming from and I understand where the players are coming from. I get it. I've read just about every negotiation that's been brought out. I don't understand all the total legal terms of it and all the X, Y's, and Z's of it, but I understand what the owners are trying to do. I understand what the players are trying to do. But for me, it's the biggest thing for me is just that the fans are missing baseball right now, and it's that simple. And being a fan, I'm kind of pissed about it.
And the fact that you're not really allowed to talk to free agents at this time because there's really no league agreement. We still have no idea where Freddie Freeman and Chris Bryant are going to go.
Yeah. We should probably touch on that real quick. It's come out that the Braves offered Freeman a contract prior to the lockout, and Freeman declined it relatively quickly.
Yeah, I heard it was some kind of hometown discount offer, though. It's probably not what he was worth. I didn't see any metrics on it, but I did hear, the rumor.
Yeah, I didn't get the metrics on it either, but I heard the rumor that he declined it fairly quickly. One of the big name teams that are coming out for Freddie Freeman are obviously the Yankees. The Phillies have been linked to Freddie Freeman on a very small level, not like the Yankees.
Anybody that has money is going to be linked to Freddie Freeman and Chris Bryant. That's just the way baseball works.
Yeah, I'm still holding out hope for the Harper effect. Get Freddie, Chris, Bryce.
I would be okay.
JT.
With one or the other.
So would I, but you get all four of those guys in the same lineup because you got JT as well. And I mean, you just toss Rhys Hoskins out in right field and hope for the best.
No, I think if they start, I think the universal DH is agreed upon by both sides. So you'd move.
Oh, that's true. I did forget about that. You're right.
To the DH. At least they agreed on one thing. That's probably why they keep saying they're close. On the list of 100 things they have to agree on, they got one right. Got 99 problems, but the DH ain't one.
I'm sure they've gotten somewhere on a lot of them, but when it comes to money, they just won't. Neither side wants to concede, and that's where it's sad.
I guarantee you, it's probably the minimum payroll. If I had to pick one topic that was really relevant that I looked before this offseason began and was like, that's going to cause some issues. It's the minimum payroll. Owners of bad teams aren't going to want to shell out the money, and the reason they're bad teams is because owners won't shell out the money. It's a never-ending cycle, with the exception of the Oakland A's.
Speaking of which, I finally saw your favorite movie, Moneyball, the other day. Took me forever to watch it. No, not until the other day. Great movie.
Yeah, it's an incredible movie.
First time I've seen it.
Could you imagine if Billy Beane went to the Red Sox?
They ended up winning 3 years later under his design anyway.
Yeah. God. Yeah, that's such a good movie. I'm surprised you haven't seen that.
Well, I have now. I just hadn't prior.
Yeah, I'm surprised it took you that long to see it. That movie's... Whew.
I'm busy with sleep and stuff.
Brad Pitt is an excellent actor. Anyway, that has absolutely nothing to do with sports. Brad Pitt's acting. Anyway, so let's get into the a little bit more relevant topic, a sport that is never ending, and that is football. They will continue to put Band-Aids over bullet holes to keep their season going, which, doesn't make for necessarily fantastic play and viewership, but good for the NFL because we'd rather watch something than nothing at all.
That is correct.
Unless it's the Pro Bowl. We don't want to watch that. That's too low of a bar. I'd rather be in a lockout than have every game be like the Pro Bowl.
I concur. Yes.
However, I have a list of teams right here that I believe need quarterbacks. We're going to go line by line, and we're going to talk about who's going to play quarterback for those teams. I have names written down next to them, so that way there's no real cheating. I can't just be like, yeah, I agree with this take the whole time. That make for terrible viewership.
No, it's perfect because I don't have anything written down. You can just ask me. I'll give you my honest answer and feedback, and then you can tell me what you said.
First team, and we've talked about this 100 times, Denver Broncos. Who's being quarterback for the Denver Broncos in 2022?
So I've said open several times that I thought it was Aaron Rodgers. However, the longer this Packers-Rodgers thing goes on, I think Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers next season.
Okay, that was one of my teams. So
what's that?
That was one of my teams, so I was kind of hoping you didn't word it that way.
Sorry, but that's how I'm going on this one. And as a result, I know that there has been 1,000 rumors that the Eagles are interested in Russell Westbrook. However, I don't. Or Russell Wilson. I'm sorry. Westbrook is a basketball player. So I have been linked to Russell Wilson. I don't believe it for even a second. I think that they are bought in for the time being on Jalen Hurts. They intend to build around Jalen Hurts, and if it doesn't work, they'll go get another quarterback. So for me, the Russell Wilson-led Denver Broncos will start the season next year.
I disagree. Carson Strong. I think they draft a quarterback. I think they draft Carson Strong from Nevada. Yeah. I think, and I haven't seen too much of the quarterback combine. We haven't heard much from pro days. The draft hasn't even been out yet. However, I think they go out and they get Carson Strong, good pocket passer with a good arm.
Right now, Ritter is running up everybody's chart.
Yeah, Ritter's looking really good too. And there's another one that I'm going to talk about later on this list. I think there's another team that I have on this list that drafts a quarterback, and I think he might be the best fantasy prospect out of all of them. But yeah, I think Ritter's an option too. But I think they like Carson Strong. I think he fits more the profiles, not to the same talent level of Patrick Mahomes. Pocket passer with a big arm and. No ability to read the field at all. But Patrick Mahomes even admitted it took him like a year and a half to do that. So that being said, who knows what's going to happen? But I think the Broncos go draft route. I do agree with you that the Rodgers news seems to have faded. I thought that if it was going to happen, it would have happened already. There would have been a huge swirling. I don't think Russell Wilson leaves Seattle. I actually don't even have the Seahawks on my list. We've been hearing Russ is going to Chicago for 3 years now. I'll believe it when I see it at this point. An interesting team that popped up just last week, Cleveland Browns.
You're going to disagree with me on this one. However, I have the Colts super desperate to get rid of Carson Wentz. I believe that they may send Carson Wentz and a either player to be named later or 5th or 6th round draft pick to Cleveland Browns for Baker Mayfield.
Hey, I disagree. I disagree entirely. That's a super lateral move at worst. I think Carson Wentz has more potential than Baker does.
I believe you do that he does too. However, Frank Reich must have seen something in the last 4 games of last year. Even though Carson Wentz threw for 4,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions for whatever it was. For some reason,
7.
My point stands. Is Wentz didn't have a down year. He played terrible in the last 4 games of the season, and I agree that it's a lateral move for the time being. But if Frank Reich sees something that he likes better in Baker, he's going to go get him. Same reason that he turned around and gave up a first-round draft pick, tentative first-round draft pick for Carson Wentz. Frank Reich made that trade with the Eagles knowing that he was giving up a first-round pick when he took Carson Wentz. Like, there's no way you shape it. You're not taking Carson Wentz to not win football games. So you knew you were giving up a first-round pick for Carson Wentz. So whatever he saw, he didn't like this year. Maybe whatever Doug Peterson did to Carson the last 3 years, Frank Reich hadn't seen on tape, and now he saw him in the locker room and he didn't like it. He might see something different in Baker. And because neither team has a ton of draft capital right now, neither team has a ton of money right now, I think they make a lateral move because both teams are looking for a small shakeup, and they both think it's the quarterback position.
I disagree with that statement, actually. Despite the swirling rumors, despite all that's going on in Cleveland, I think Baker Mayfield stays. I think he's the quarterback next year, and I think that because without an overpay, you're not gonna improve that position at all. Think about who's available right now. You have like Mitch Trubisky, Marcus Mariota, Baker, Carson, Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, none of these guys stand out as, they're going to make my team a lot better for sure. And you look at the draft prospects, outside of maybe Matt Corral, and the Browns. Maybe if they draft a quarterback and they let him sit behind Baker next year on his 5th-year option, but I don't think that Baker Mayfield is out this coming season.
Hey, listen, the Browns have a middle-of-the-round pick, and the quarterbacks in this draft, as you and I have discussed, are not good. So the Raiders...
If they can go get Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral or something like that, then maybe, but I don't... There's nobody better than Baker. Like, in all honesty, you could argue that Wentz is a little bit better. You could argue that Jimmy G, going to an NFC Championship game is a little bit better. But without, everything seems lateral at this point. At this point in time, everything seems lateral. So there's no point in giving up draft capital to go get somebody that's going to produce the same way that Baker will. You might as well just draft a quarterback, have him sit the bench behind Baker for this year, let Baker walk after his 5th-year option, and then. So
you're not concerned about all the reports that have come out that Landry and the receiving core and even Chubb have come out and openly, vocally said that they don't have belief in Baker. Maybe not so much word for word, but they've shown doubt in the quarterback position in Cleveland right second. That doesn't mean anything.
I'm not concerned at all because the first statement Jarvis Landry said was he wants to re-sign in Cleveland. So if you really had that lack of faith, why would you want to re-sign? No, you're right. Plus, Baker and Jarvis have always had a good connection. Jarvis was just hurt a lot this past year.
You're right. That's true.
So that's kind of where I stand on that. I don't think that there's anything truly better out there than Baker, even in the rookie class.
Okay.
That being said, speaking of better than Baker, the Bucs. Who's the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this coming season? Please don't say Tom Brady.
No,
I really hate that rumor so much.
No. Arians came out and said that Brady slammed the door on retirement. He's not coming out of retirement. That could all be a smokescreen. I just don't see it. So my old man just said Jimmy Garoppolo, and I, up until about 14 minutes ago, was leaning that way. And I'm going to change my answer. Kyle Trask starts the season for quarterback in Tampa Bay. He got to sit behind Tom Brady for, 2 years now? He knows the offense. Fine, he knows the offense. He knows the playbook. In preseason last year, he showed a lot of arm strength and a lot of good decisiveness. I think that With Brady out, they give him a season to show whether or not he learned from Brady. And if not, they'll make another move. But for the time being, I think Kyle Trask starts at quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I agree. I actually agree with the old man here. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is probably in the lead to start for the Buccaneers. At first, I had Jimmy Garoppolo going to another team that I have on the list. However, after hearing the rumors from that team, I think this is a pretty solid move. The 49ers, who are a couple teams down on this list, we'll talk about them here in a second, are looking to move off of Jimmy Garoppolo despite the fact they just went to an NFC Championship game. We all know that they went to an NFC Championship game and it had nothing to do with him. So they can only improve from that position, before Jimmy. That's a team unlike the Browns, they have options. They can improve, whereas the Browns really can't at this point. So I do think Jimmy Garoppolo will start for the Buccaneers in 2022. I think losing Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown hurts. That does, make me feel like maybe the Bucs dangle Mike Evans out there for a trade. Maybe not. Maybe they keep him with Trask. Who knows? I'm surprised, actually, that I am hearing a lot of rumors they are going to go out and get somebody instead of, just an automatic, well, Kyle Trask, this is your team. But I think it goes Garoppolo, and then if they don't, land somebody like him, they'll go Trask.
Okay.
That means that you've already answered this question. The Colts. You said Baker?
I did say Baker. I again, lateral move, and I get it, but if Frank Reich sees something different in Baker than he does in Carson, there were other quarterbacks to go get last year, and Frank Reich and the Indianapolis Colts chose Carson Wentz because of the disgruntled relationship in Philadelphia, and because Frank Reich had success with Carson Wentz when he was in Philadelphia. I get why they went and got him, but they saw something this year they didn't like, and for all I know, Frank Reich's been doing nothing but looking at quarterback film, and you got a guy in Baker Mayfield who just went 7-9 or 7-8-1 or 7-7 or whatever it was in Cincinnati on a pretty good team, but they're not as good as the Colts. Put him in that scenario, it's the record. So for me, yeah, Baker and Carson, almost a straight up trade there. Did you freeze?
Indianapolis.
I'm sorry, you froze, so try again. You're still frozen. Can you hear me? Because you're frozen.
I think that's your error, man, because you're freezing on my end, too.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yep.
I can see you now.
Yeah, I think Carson actually stays in Indianapolis. Again, going back to the Baker thing, who are you going to get? There's nobody better. You can't improve on that position from Carson Wentz. There's nobody out there that's going to. And quite frankly, I don't think Jacob Eason or Sam Ellinger are really an upgrade. So I think they turn around. Chris Ballard looks himself in the face and says, I'm going to have to eat this one because I just gave up a first-round pick for a guy who really didn't play all that bad. So I think they give him one more shot. I think they give him another year. If that doesn't work out, then they move on.
I kind of went back. Look, I'll be honest. I kind of went back and forth on the Carson staying or going in Indianapolis, especially after Jonathan Taylor came out and was like, I don't know what anybody's talking about. Carson played great. He is not a locker room cancer. Like, that's your A+++ running back there, giving a huge vote of confidence to Carson Wentz in the backfield for Indianapolis. So I really went back and forth on it a lot. But I'm here for bold takes.
Should be easy, Niners.
Oh, it's Trey Lance.
Yeah, that's what
do I have to explain?
No, I brought it up because we're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo moving. So, in all fairness to that team, I figured we'd talk about how Trey Lance is absolutely going to be the starter. Giants.
The New York Giants. So, the ownership there, as Ryan, you're aware, those of you who aren't aware, have shown a little bit of hesitation immediately naming Daniel Jones the quarterback for the 2022 season. However, I don't think they go anywhere off of Daniel Jones. I think he stays. He gets the last year on his rookie deal, I believe it is, to prove whether or not he's worth a contract. They're not in a position to contend. They don't have the talent on the roster to contend now anyway, so they're not going to give up draft picks to go get a quarterback. So they probably draft one, and they hope that Jones turns into something, and if he does not, they'll hopefully be able to build and train and get the next guy ready. But I think it's Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I think Daniel Jones stays on the roster. However, I think a certain quarterback from Buffalo makes his way down to New York.
Mitch Trubisky.
Giants. Yep, I think Mitch Trubisky, who was a free agent. Brian Daboll, who was the offensive coordinator up there in Buffalo, is now the head coach in New York. I think he poaches Trubisky from the Bills. They speak very highly of him as a backup, and he kind of brings the same skill set that Daniel Jones does. He can run, he can throw, not very well, but just like Daniel Jones. And I think at the very least they bring him in for some competition. However, I have more faith in Trubisky than I do Jones.
At this point in his career, how could you not, right? Trubisky has led the Bears to a playoff appearance.
I think if he does make his way to New York and competes for the starting job, he could very well win it.
Okay. I don't dislike that take. I really don't. I just believe that they're not going to give up a lot to get anybody right now because they know they're not contenders. They're rebuilding. And as such, Jones.
I think this next team's an easy one as well. I think we should just talk about it because of the sake of the state of the team, the Detroit Lions.
I mean, it's Jared Goff as a starting quarterback for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, they might draft somebody, but it's Jared Goff.
It's Jared Goff.
Next is the Packers. We both have expressed that we believe Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay.
Correct, and I do not change on that.
Has dragged on. The Panthers.
So until you said the Giants, I had Mitch Trubisky going to the Panthers. I believe he brings a different element than Sam Darnold does. Darnold's never really been a run and gun quarterback. Not saying Trubisky has a great arm because I know that Darnold does have a better arm. But for me, Trubisky offers just a little bit of a different element. I don't think it's a lateral move. I think it is an upgrade to get Trubisky. Or like you said, it's at least competition in camp. And for that sake, I think if Trubisky goes to Carolina, he could also win the starting job there. So he has an opportunity, in your opinion, to go to New York and win the starting job, and in my opinion, go to Carolina and win a starting job.
I think Jameis Winston goes to the Panthers.
Which brings you to another team.
Yep. I think Jameis Winston goes to the Panthers. I think due to the cap situation, the work that Mickey Loomis has to do in New Orleans, I think it's safer to say that Winston can go to a more desperate team for a quarterback. Sean Payton left, so there's really no quarterback appeal there, so to speak. Dennis Allen, I don't know if he's been named the next head coach of New Orleans, but I think he's probably the front runner if he hasn't been.
He hasn't been.
Yeah, I think Jameis Winston goes to the Panthers. You got two good receivers there. Robbie Anderson had a bit of a down year, but the quarterback play was bad. And DJ Moore is good, just can't find the end zone. I think a quarterback like Jameis Winston, whose ability to run and gun could put them over, make them something. And if Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy with Winston's potential, that could be a nice little offense that they got going on over there. They're not out of the realm of drafting a quarterback, but I think Sam Darnold is just not it over there.
I agree. Sam Darnold's not it.
Which we both agree on. Which leads me to my next team, the Washington Commanders, which is a terrible team name.
How do you not give Heineke another shot? He played. Listen, unless somehow Russell, you already said you don't think Wilson's leaving Seattle. We've already discussed how Rodgers isn't leaving Green Bay. Unless one of those two guys or Deshaun Watson's sexual assault cases go away, one of those three guys, I don't know how you don't go with Heineke. And again, we've already discussed Rodgers not leaving, Wilson not leaving, in your opinion, and I had him going to Denver. And Watson is just a nightmare. So to me, it's Heineke.
I think Heineke is the quarterback next year. However, I do think they draft one.
Hey, we agree.
Yeah, I think ultimately that's the way that's going to work out. Heineke's got one more year on a very cheap deal. And again, who's better than Heineke that you could acquire in free agency or through trade? Carson Wentz, maybe. That's been a popular name. I think he's better than Heineke, but however, what are you willing to give up to get him? And are the Colts willing to take on Taylor Heineke? I don't think so. That's a team short of a quarterback, superstar quarterback, short of potentially being a Super Bowl contender. So Yeah, I'd say Heineke next year, but I think they draft a quarterback to sit behind him. I think they go to Ritter, they go, Coral, they go Pickett maybe.
I actually had Ritter going to the Commanders.
I see what you did there.
Oh, I didn't try to hide it.
That being said, here's that team that you pointed out so graciously that led me to the Saints.
For me, it was Jameis Winston, but everything that you said about why he would be better suited to be a Carolina Panther makes a lot of sense to me. So if that's the case, Taysom Hill will be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints.
I think they draft one. I think part of their cap-saving moves is they cut that, completely negligible contract of Taysom Hill and move on from that, or they just completely restructure that deal altogether. But I think they draft a quarterback. I think they start over. Truthfully, I know they want to keep Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas wants nothing to do with being there. I think they really just have to start over at this point. Alvin Kamara's in a little bit of legal trouble. It's a tough situation, but they're a little bit of an aging team with no real playoff hopes because of the departures of Breeze and Sean Payton. So I think they go ahead, start fresh. I think Kenny Pickett would be an ideal fit there. He's probably the best quarterback prospect off the board. However, the next team that I have listed here, I think they go a little bit of a different direction based on what I've heard, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So again, there were a ton of rumors earlier in the offseason that Rodgers could also go to Pittsburgh. It was an enticing location, as you pointed out several times. They got a pretty good offensive line. They got a lot of young weapons. Najee Harris just had one of the best rookie running back seasons in history. So extremely enticing for a quarterback who would have been on the free agent market had they been on the free agent market. But again, you and I have already discussed, Rodgers isn't moving. So I've got the Steelers drafting a quarterback, and Carson Strong was actually who I had the Steelers drafting.
So I have the Steelers drafting a quarterback. Now, initially, when the offseason first opened, Jimmy Garoppolo was a hot name being thrown around there, and that was shut down pretty quickly in my eyes by the statement that Mike Tomlin gave, and that's that they want a dual-threat quarterback. Now, I think ultimately they do end up drafting Malik Willis, and he ends up being the starting quarterback because he's comparable to Lamar Jackson, except he has a little bit more room to grow coming out of college. However, don't rule out Marcus Mariota. He's a free agent. He's been known to have mobility. He's got a good arm, and he sat behind Derek Carr for the last couple of years, who has played pretty well under the radar, in my opinion. So I think he's learned a little bit. I think he's ready to get a shot to start again. I could see Mariota coming to Pittsburgh on a one-year deal and then drafting Malik Willis, turning to Marcus and saying, hey, this can be your team this year. However, this is what the circumstances are. Kind of like the 49ers drafting Trey Lance last year and being like to Jimmy G, like, hey, it doesn't really matter what goes on this year. You're out.
Actually, I hadn't even thought of Mariota, and that's a really good take. I like that one.
That's why I scooped Mariota up in the Gulag League, by the way, because I heard the swirling rumor, and I have the roster space, so I'm going to take the early flyer. If he goes somewhere as a starter, I win.
All right. Any more teams?
Yeah, one more, but I think we're going to agree on this name too, the Texans.
Oh, they're still a team?
Yeah. Davis Mills.
It's Davis Mills. He played well enough, especially down the stretch. He beat a couple of winning record teams there at the end once he finally got his footing.
They kicked the crap out of the Chargers.
Say that again?
They kicked the crap out of the Chargers.
And they beat the Colts too. So you're talking two should have been playoff teams. Two should have been playoff teams if they had beaten the Texans, and Davis Mills went into their house and beat them both. So I mean, it's really worth saying something. So Davis Mills for me is the starting quarterback for the Texans.
Given the fact they have no weapons down there either, he played pretty good ball.
So it's also worth noting that of all the teams that you mentioned, neither of us have Deshaun Watson going anywhere.
I mean, he's not going to be in the Texans, but really it's a murky situation at this point in time because obviously we're projecting at this point in time who's going to start where, and until he gets out of legal trouble, he's not.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Now, if he clears his legal trouble tomorrow, next week we will talk about something else because I have a certain Carolina Panthers in mind that That would really help out there. And then I could see Jameis Winston going back to the Saints, which means Kenny Pickett could get drafted by somebody else.
That's true. That's true. Change the board all the way up if he gets cleared. Yep. You discussed wanting to do something just a little bit different for us. Not really that much different, I guess. So this week you wanted to do quarterback rankings, and then next week we'll do running back, and then wide receiver, and then tight end, and then defensive rankings if you guys want to go all into that and stuff.
So I'm gonna top 12 fantasy quarterbacks for dynasty formats, because that's kind of what Bill and I have been moving over to. Like we said, 40 minutes of real sports, whatever time is left of fake sports.
So you and I already discussed how we think our 1 and 2 are the same.
Allen, Mahomes.
Allen and Mahomes in that order, and it is in that order.
Rushing ability puts Allen over Mahomes.
Correct. I agree with you. I think 3 from 3 on, I think we get a little bit dicey.
Okay, who's your 3?
All right, my number 3 is Justin Herbert.
Okay, we have the same.
Okay.
He has the ability to run. He ran for 3 touchdowns in the Senior Bowl. He ran for 5 touchdowns as a rookie. He has some mobility, and he has elite level arm strength and an offense that flows directly through him with a great pass catching back. Mike Williams is, supposedly set to return to the Chargers. Keenan Allen's still there. Josh Palmer could make an impact next year. So he has the weapons, and if he doesn't have the weapons, he'll make the weapons. See Jalen Guyton.
Yeah. Okay. So who's your 4?
So number 4 is Kyler Murray.
Yeah, so you and I have discussed this many times. We are not fans of Kyler Murray. However, we cannot dispute what he does on the football field. He's great at running and making space. He's great at making plays. He's great, and he does have pretty good arm strength, considering his 5'8" stature or whatever he is, 5'9". So for a dynasty league moving forward, I agree that Kyler Murray is number 4 on the list. And listen, I mean, he's throwing the ball to D-Hop. He's throwing the ball to Zach Ertz, guy with super sure hands. They're going to help him be in that category. So, yeah, for me, Kyler Murray is number 4.
I hesitated putting Kyler Murray at 4 for that exact reason, though, because D-Hop's getting a little older. He showed some regression last year. Ertz is pretty old, too. Christian Kirk's set to be a free agent. A.J. Green's gone. So Rondell Moore is probably going to be the number 2 receiver over there, who didn't really get too many looks last year. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops this year. But with his rushing ability, again, Kyler Murray, he could be a QB1 if he stays healthy. But that's my biggest question mark is, can he stay healthy?
Yeah, and I agree. He's this past season he dealt with a lot of ankle injuries, which actually hindered him from being able to use his legs, much like another quarterback I have on my list. But number 5,
Joe Burrow.
Okay, this is where we start to get a little bit different.
Lamar.
I don't have Lamar. You're not going to like who I have. I don't like who I have. It is not Jalen Hurts. However, he's a lot higher on the list than I bet you think he is. I've got Dak Prescott at number 5. I know everything about Amari Cooper either being released or traded by the time the draft happens or whatever it is, and I believe those rumors are true. Amari Cooper is a really good route runner, but he's lost 2 steps, not just 1. He is sure-handed, but if you're looking at what they've got on the outside, especially since they're offering a contract to Michael Gallup, they have a lot of speed on the outside. Schultz has really emerged as a really good tight end, and then they still have the 2-headed monster in Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard out of the backfield. So for me, Dak Prescott probably takes number 5. Let's also not forget that he's only 27 years old. Like, if we're talking about a dynasty league and taking a quarterback who's going to put up points for the next couple of years, for me, number 5 right now, again, I'm sorry, is Dak Prescott.
Here's my thing. So I do have Dak Prescott in the top 12.
Okay.
So the way that I look at it is, what is the potential that these QBs could be QB1 on the season? And by you putting him at 5, you mean to tell me that you think he has a better chance than Lamar Jackson to be QB1 on the season? You think he has a better chance to be QB1 than Jalen Hurts or Trey Lance or Joe Burrow? I think that's where we disagree in our thought process on the rankings. Is I do not think that Dak Prescott has a chance to finish in a fully healthy season for all these quarterbacks higher than any of those guys. He doesn't really bring the same rushing upside, and his quarterback rating without Amari Cooper is like 20 points lower. So until the Cowboys figure out a way to properly utilize CeeDee Lamb to Dak's favor, I have him a little bit lower on this list.
That's fair.
But number 5 for me, like I said, Joe Burrow. He has 2 very young receivers on the outside, and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Tyler Boyd is no slouch in the slot either, and he's not very old either. I think turns 28 in the offseason. Joe Mixon, a very good running back. The only suspect for him is his offensive line. However, that is an air attack, big play offense, and Burrow fits perfectly for it.
Number 6 for me is Joe Burrow for all the reasons that you just said. I think I just lost Ryan. I'm assuming his laptop died. Let me text him real quick and find out. Yeah. I'm assuming his laptop died. But as I said, while Ryan is, on hiatus here, my number 6 pick, and I totally agree with what he was saying on how he ranks quarterbacks in an order of the value. But the way I ranked them is if it's a 12-man dynasty league, any one of these 12 quarterbacks for me are going to be effective from here on out. There he is. You good?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Did you hear any of what I just said?
No, I missed the last 15 seconds.
Okay, I was just saying how I agree, or my number 6 is Joe Burrow, and that I agree with the way that you rank your dynasty quarterbacks, and it makes a lot of sense. For me, the way I rank them is there's a 12-man dynasty league. Any one of these 12 quarterbacks will be your QB1 going forward, and I'm looking for one who I think will have the most long-term success. Not that I think Dak Prescott will have more long-term success than Joe Burrow overall. It's just, for me, what I've seen out of Dak Prescott the last 2 years, the last 2 seasons, he's pretty high on the list for me because he has played out of his mind for most of the time being. But again, Joe Burrow is my number 6 for everything that you said. Who's your 6?
My number 6 is Lamar Jackson for obvious reasons. If he stays healthy, his rushing upside, makes him a very elite fantasy option, and he's still 25 in his rookie deal. So
number 7 for me.
Yeah, very very young quarterback with the rushing upside, who's only improved as a passer throughout his career. So I think that he is a good fit at number 6.
I agree. The big knock on Lamar Jackson is that he hasn't won any playoff games. And I mean, this year the team was just so banged up at so many positions that they didn't even have a shot to get into the playoffs. But Lamar Jackson he's getting much, much better at sitting in the pocket and making decisions. Obviously his legs are super dangerous. But I agree. He should be pretty high on the list. Like I said, he's my number, what are we on? You still got to give me your number 7?
That was my number 6. So yeah, I got to.
All right. So he's my number 8. So your number 7 is.
Who's your number 8?
Lamar.
Who's your number 7? Burrow should have been your 6.
Burrow is my 6. Lamar is my 7.
Okay. So my 7 is Jalen Hurts.
So before you start on that,
guy was QB2 in games that he played. Obviously, he missed one game for an ankle injury and sat out the last game of the season because he didn't need to play. However, before then, he was QB2. His rushing potential makes him, a lethal fantasy weapon, as we saw in the offense. Now, granted, the ankle injury slowed him up a little bit at the end of the year, so health is a bit of a long-term concern in terms of his stature. He's smaller. He's like Kyler Murray. However, he's only going to improve as a passer, in my opinion. I don't think that he's ever going to get to top-tier elite passer, but I don't really ever think that on the football field he's going to be like Lamar Jackson. However, his rushing upside in terms of fantasy production is hard to ignore.
Yes, I have Jalen Hurts at number 8. Only one player in NFL history has 4,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards through his first 20 career starts. And that's Jalen Hurts, and he's done it in 19 games.
Yeah.
End of story on anything else is he deserves to be in top 12 for that stat alone.
As an NFL quarterback, I don't love him. As a fantasy prospect, easy money.
Yeah, listen, I've been super harsh on Jalen Hurts all year long. I've been super harsh on Jalen Hurts. Do I want him as the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles? When I look at the league and I ask myself, like, if a dream scenario, would I want him? Absolutely not. But in the scenario that is the NFL, build around him. Like I said earlier, build around Jalen Hurts. If he can't do it, bring somebody in that can, but don't waste more picks on a different quarterback. Like, build around the guy you've got. See if he can do it, and if not, go get somebody else.
Especially because Hurts is still cheap. You look at guys like
real cheap
after their rookie contracts, they get paid. So he's real cheap. Go ahead and build the other weapons around him. And if you build up the squad and he can't win with it, you can just go draft another quarterback.
So who's your number 8?
So you said your number 8 is Hurts. I had my number 8. I had my number 9 guy as my number 8 up until about 3 minutes ago, and then I flipped him with my number 9 guy. Number 8, I have Trey Lance. Explosive player. We saw it in his 2 starts. I think he carried the ball 30 times, so the rushing upside is absolutely there, and he has a cannon for an arm. He's going to be a little bit slow starting in his career because his ability to read the field, his prospects as an actual quarterback, everybody kind of knew that he was going to need to grow a little bit, and that's why he sat this year. But I think his raw talent as a player and is kind of, in terms from fantasy, is going to be unbelievable. He's going to, if he carries the ball 15 times a game in a Kyle Shanahan offense and throws the ball 25 to the likes of Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, he could be QB1. I want to see it on the field first, so that's why I have him so low as of right now.
Okay.
But my number 9 was Dak Prescott, who I had at number 8.
Okay.
Kind of for the same reasons you said earlier. He's losing a big weapon. However, he still does have other weapons. He's not as mobile as these other quarterbacks, but he has potential for top 5 quarterback finish. So.
Okay, so basically the only place we're really disagreeing is where I have Dak Prescott ranked, because I also have Trey Lance as my number 9. He was your 9, and then you moved him up to 8. I've got him at 9 now. For everything that you just said, the weapons in San Francisco are really good. We saw what Jimmy Garoppolo, with not a great arm, could do with those weapons. Now you add a mobile Trey Lance over there in San Francisco. And if he's not successful, it's really unfortunate for, John Lynch in that organization, but I just don't see how he can't be successful.
That Kyle Shanahan offense, there ain't no way.
Exactly. So yes, for me, number 9 is Trey Lance. Number 10, Russell Wilson. I don't care where he goes.
We disagree.
I don't care where he goes. Number 10, Russell Wilson.
Number 10,
over Dynasty.
Yeah, Dynasty.
Russell Wilson. Anywhere Russell Wilson goes, his entire career he's got a strong arm. He makes really good decision. He doesn't turn the ball over that often. I get he just had a down year. He broke his finger in that one game. I forget who it was against. And he had a down year because he was out most of it, but he started to get in a groove the last few games of the season. He still has his legs. They're not what they used to be, but he still has them. So he can create space when needed, but he's always smart, always looking down the field, always making plays. Number 10, Russell Wilson.
I have Matthew Stafford at number 10, and quite frankly, if we weren't talking about Dynasty, it'd be in the top 5.
I agree.
Moving to the Rams was the greatest move he could have had in his career. They have a great offensive line. They have great weapons. Cam Akers is coming back.
Just won a Super Bowl.
Cooper Kupp's going to be there. They're talking about retaining Odell Beckham. Robert Woods is still under contract there. So the weapons are there. He has the arm talent. He has the IQ. He's only missed 8 games his whole career, and they were in one season. So he's an Iron Man, and he will be 34 to start the season. So he is a little bit older. However, I think with the way that the quarterbacks are protected now and the way that they age, he's still got 4 more years of good quarterback play. So I go ahead, give me Matthew Stafford at number 10. My argument against Russell Wilson, because I'll just go out and say it, he's not even in my top 12, is because he is a little older, and I have him projected to remain in Seattle, where they just will not let Russ open up ever for a whole season. I think he's being held back by his scheme. I think he's a little bit more injury prone. I like his weapons. I like DK. I like Tyler Lockett. But to me, he isn't the same player the last couple years that he was early in his career. I think his fall off is a little bit slow decline, but it's starting already.
Okay.
So number 11, I have Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, so we are in agreement on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
number 11.
I think dynasty prospects, he still is a top 12 quarterback for sure. Obviously, had a little bit of a rough rookie campaign, but he was missing. First off, he played for Urban Meyer, who doesn't really know what he's doing, and then secondly, James Robinson was hurt. Travis Etienne got hurt Travis Etienne was hurt. James Robinson got hurt at a certain point. DJ Chark was out after Game 3. Laviska Shenault was not utilized in any way, shape, or form that he should have been. I think bringing in Doug Peterson is going to change this guy's career path because
that's why I've got Trevor Lawrence in my top 12 specifically is the Doug Peterson factor. Urban Meyer was obviously not an NFL quarterback. I know you and I kind of put that coaching signing down very low on the list of important things that happened in the offseason because we didn't think it was going to be successful. And hey, look, we were right. Imagine that. But yes, I agree. Look what Doug Peterson was capable of doing with Carson Wentz in 2017. I'm not saying Carson didn't have talent. I am saying Trevor Lawrence does have talent, and I'm saying that it's a really good move for Doug to go to Jacksonville, and it's a really good move for those players in Jacksonville for Doug to go to Jacksonville.
And there's swirling rumors that they are going to heavily be involved in trying to acquire Chris Godwin in the offseason. So, and if they bring back DJ Chark, who can be an Allen Robinson type guy, they can use him the same way that the Eagles used Alshon Jeffrey to help, further Carson Wentz's success. That could potentially be a good offense, with the two-headed running back committee that they'll have back there. But I think Trevor Lawrence will take a huge step forward this year, and it'll only help his growth in the future years. Number 12.
Because I still think he's got like 3 or 4 seasons left. And I don't even like myself for having him in the top 12 because of how much drama he creates. I got Aaron Rodgers. I don't really think I need to give you a pedigree on Aaron Rodgers. He's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, you don't need much of an explanation. However, here's another surprise that I do not have in my top 12 is Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, and you don't have to explain why he's not there. I just want to hear your explanation for putting the guy above him.
Justin Fields.
So I had Fields at 13. I actually went down to 15. I have Fields at 13.
The coaching change, I think, is going to do Justin Fields wonders, like Matt Nagy being gone finally. And I think he's another one with some two-way ability. He has some scramblability. He has good arm strength. I think he just needs to be coached in the right direction. That whole season was a disaster. Allen Robinson wanted no part of being in Chicago, so he's going to be on his way out the door. They might draft another receiver. However, Darnell Mooney looked pretty good. David Montgomery's a good running back. And if Aaron Rodgers should leave Green Bay, I think the Bears look at that as a window of opportunity to go out and acquire somebody.
That's good. I made a mistake. I don't have Fields at 13. I have Stafford at 13 and Fields at 14. Okay. But no, and I agree with what you're saying. The coaching change there, Matt Nagy being out is going to be a big deal for Justin Fields. They get a quarterbacks coach in there that actually knows how to deal with a running and gunning quarterback. It's going to help him significantly. So, yeah, I mean, I get it, but talking top 12 QB1s, it was hard for me to leave Aaron Rodgers off. I probably could have dropped Russell Wilson lower, and I admit that. However, Rodgers was hard for me to leave off the top 12.
Yeah, like I said, if we weren't doing Dynasty, he'd be another one that's in the top 12, but I'm just not sold on it. Don't know what the future looks like. I've heard the retirement rumors, so I think you get a couple years left of Aaron Rodgers, maybe.
Something a little bit unprecedented that I'm about to bring up here for BSing Sports is I'm going to talk basketball for a few minutes. The trade deadline went down a few weeks ago, right after the Super Bowl, actually. The Philadelphia 76ers made a blockbuster trade, sending Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and Andre Drummond to the Brooklyn Nets for James Harden and Tyrese Maxey. And the Sixers...
He was already on the team.
Apologies. James Harden and somebody else. And since they made the trade, the Sixers have not lost. Are they the favorites? Are they the favorites to win the title?
He's sitting out this game against the Heat, who is the number 1 seed, 2 games ahead of the 76ers, who are the 2nd seed in the East. This offense, they look so dynamic. But
they've looked good.
Between Embiid, Harden, and Maxey, they're averaging those 3 85 points a game since Harden got there. That offense is dynamic. You've Maxey, who can be a good mid to deep range shooter. You got Harden, who can set up an offense, and you've got Embiid in the paint, who has drawn dominance like Shaq level comparisons, which I don't necessarily agree with, just because basketball is different now than it was back then. But it's a dynamic offense. Does it make them the favorites? Time will tell. But I'd say yes.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. They've looked really good. They've also drawn comparisons. Like the Harden and Embiid combination has drawn comparisons to Kobe and Shaq from '01 when they beat the 76ers. I don't think they're at that level, but the fact that they're even drawing comparisons to that level are extremely impressive. And they've just been on the exact same page since they've got together, which I think is huge. And in opposite side of that, Ben Simmons still hasn't played for the Nets, which I'm not really sure what they thought they were getting there, but Simmons. Oh, I wanted to give my brother-in-law a shout out. My wife and I made him a shirt and gave it to him on Christmas that said, "I've hated Ben Simmons since before it was cool." Because he's never liked Ben Simmons. He's been against Ben Simmons the entire time. So Bradford, there's your little shout out, the one that you get this from me this week. And yeah, so Ben Simmons not doing anything in Brooklyn, and James Harden, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey lighting it up in Philly.
Yeah, I love it. So, it's actually making me want to watch basketball.
I've actually caught a couple of periods of a few games and periods, quarters. I don't know what they are anymore. And again, the Sixers look like a real good basketball team.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else you want to cover?
No, man, I'm good. I think we did a good show tonight.
Yeah, awesome. Good to get an hour of talking sports, BS and Sports, as always, with Bill. I am Ryan. Next week, we will be covering running backs. So that's a little bit more dynamic of a situation because there are some big names that are talking about being on the move, some young cats that need to step up in year 2 and 3. So we will talk that next week. Thank you for BSing Sports. Thank you to all who watched, and have a good night, guys.
Have a good night.